The night shattered with a scream that sliced through the stillness of Willow Bend, a tidy suburban enclave where every blade of grass seemed to bow to an unspoken law. It wasn't the kind of scream you'd expect from a place like fictional late-night party gone wild or a kid testing lungs against curfew. This was raw, jagged, the sound of something breaking beyond repair. On the porch of a weathered but proud house at the end of the cul-de-sac, Jack Ramsey, a grizzled ex-Navy SEAL, stood defiant until two shadows in tactical vests descended. They weren't cops, not even clothes-just enforcers cloaked in the petty authority of the Homeowners Association, the kind of men who thrived on clipboards and fines. Jack, all sinew and steel at 76, didn't bend. Not until one of them, a hulking figure with a sneer, seized his arm and twisted. The crack of bone echoed like a gunshot, and Jack crumpled, a titan felled on his own lawn. The men fled, tires squealing, leaving him there under the indifferent gaze of twitching curtains. But this wasn't the end, it was the spark. Hours later, the growl of motorcycle engines tore through the dusk, a storm of leather and fury rolling into Willow Bend, ready to turn manicured order into chaos. Rewind to the morning, when the air still carried the crisp bite of dawn. Willow Bend was a postcard of perfection. Lawns mowed in precise diagonals, shutters painted to match mailboxes, every hedge clipped into submission. The HOA, on paper, was a guardian of property values and peace, but beneath the surface, it was a machine of control, run by small-minded tyrants who fined flower beds for being too colorful in garages for a stray oil stain. Jack Ramsey had lived here for 22 years, a widower who'd buried his wife, Ellen, in the backyard under a willow tree she'd loved. He'd raised two daughters now, scattered across the country, and all he wanted was the quiet of his coffee, the rhythm of his routine. His house stood apart, not flashy but solid, the stars and stripes snapping in the breeze above his porch. He kept his lawn neat, not because the HOA demanded it, but because it was his way discipline carved into him from decades of service. That morning, Jack was out back, hammering a loose plank into his fence. No neon paint, no wild sculptures, just a simple repair with wood that matched the faded gray of the original. His hands moved with the steady precision of a man who'd built and broken things far more complex than a picket fence. At 10:57 a.m., a sleek black SUV rolled up, its tinted windows glinting like the eyes of a predator. A vinyl sticker on the side read Community Standards Task Force, bold and official-looking if you didn't squint at the fine print. Two men climbed out, one lean and sharp, clutching a tablet like a weapon, the other broad and silent, radiating menace in his mirrored shades. Their vests screamed authority, HOA, enforcement stitched in white, but there were no badges, no names, just the vague threat of power. Jack wiped his brow and leaned against the porch railing as they approached. "You boys lost?" he asked, voice gravelly but calm. The lean one, who'd later be known as Miles Carter, tapped his tablet. "You're in violation, Mr. Ramsey. Unauthorized alteration to a perimeter structure. No Form 17C submitted for approval." Jack cocked his head, glancing at the fence. "Fixed a slat. Same wood, same height. That a violation?" "Rules are rules," Miles snapped. "You're looking at a $500 fine, 72 hours to comply, or it doubles." Jack's laugh was dry, cutting. "I was here when this place had dirt roads and no forms. You ever do anything real, son? Fight for something bigger than a fence post." Miles bristled, his jaw tightening, but he said nothing. The big one, later identified as Greg Voss, stepped forward, boots scuffing the pavement. "Sign the citation," he growled, shoving a pen toward Jack. Jack didn't flinch. Or what? Their eyes locked, a rare moment of defiance in a neighborhood trained to nod and pay. Maybe they thought his age made him fragile, a pushover in flannel and work boots. Greg moved first, lunging for Jack's arm. Jack sidestepped, old instincts flaring, but Greg was faster than he looked. His grip clamped down, twisting hard. Jack fought back, landing a solid elbow to Greg's ribs, but Miles darted in, pinning Jack's other arm. The struggle was brief, a flurry of grunts and scuffling feet, then a sickening snap split the air. Jack's forearm buckled, bone jutting through skin in a grotesque angle. He hit the ground, breath ragged, pain blazing white-hot through his skull. The clipboard hit the grass. He resisted, Miles muttered, almost himself, as Greg backed off wide-eyed. They bolted for the SUV, peeling out as Jack lay there, blood pooling beneath him. The sun beat down, relentless. Curtains fluttered across the street misses. Larson with her binoculars, Mr. Patel peering through blinds, but no one came. No one dared. It was the mail carrier, a wiry guy named Tim, who found him an hour later, still conscious, clutching his arm. They said they were officers. Jack rasped as Tim dialed 911. The paramedics arrived, lights flashing, and carted him off. X-rays showed a compound fracture surgery, screws, a long road ahead. Across town, in a cluttered garage that smelled of oil and metal, Riley Tanner got the call. She was Jack's granddaughter, 32, a mechanic with grease under her nails and a temper forged in the same fire as her granddad's grit. Her phone buzzed mid-wrench turn on a 67 Harley, and her aunt's voice spilled out, trembling. They broke his arm, Riley. The HOA goons. He's in the hospital. Riley didn't hesitate. She tossed her tools, swapped her coveralls for a leather jacket, steel Vipers patched on the back, and fired off a text. Willow Bend. Now, family. Within an hour, the air thrummed with the roar of bikes as her crew converged, cousins, friends, a rough-edged family of ex-soldiers, bar bouncers, and gearheads who'd bleed for their own. Dusk fell over Willow Bend, casting long shadows as Riley led the charge. Her Harley growled at the head of a pack of 8, chrome glinting under streetlights. They rolled through the gates, slow and deliberate, a wall of noise and leather that rattled windows. Neighbors peeked out, some clutching phones, others just staring. Riley parked in Jack's driveway, her crew fanning out to block the cul-de-sac. She pulled off her helmet, dark hair spilling free, and climbed the porch steps. Jack sat there, arm in a sling, a faint smirk tugging at his lips despite the pain. Didn't need the cavalry, kid. Riley crouched beside him, eyes fierce. You taught me family fights back. This is us fighting. Keep it tight, Jack said, voice low. No mess. She nodded, signaling her crew. They spread out, one by the community pool, two near a black SUV parked in a garage that matched Tim's description, others just watching, waiting. Inside that garage, Miles and Greg hunched over a laptop, ring cam feeds flickering. That's his granddaughter, Miles hissed, chewing a toothpick. She's got a damn gang. Greg rubbed his knuckles, the ones that had cracked Jack's arm. I didn't mean to grab me first. What do we do? Miles asked, voice tight. Wait it out, Greg said, but his eyes betrayed doubt. Outside, the tide shifted. Mrs. Evelyn Hart, 70 and fearless, shuffled across the street with a pitcher of iced tea. Thirsty, kids? She asked, pouring for a tattooed biker who grinned like a schoolboy. Doors creaked open. A dad offered folding chairs. A girl tugged her mom's sleeve, begging for a ride on Riley's bike. Miles watched, paling. They're winning them over. Greg grabbed a burner phone and dialed Victor Kane, the HOA's puppet master, a slick real estate mogul who pulled strings from a downtown high-rise. If this gets out, we're done, Greg snapped. Victor had greenlit the enforcers, bypassing votes, skimming fines into his own accounts. Handle it, he barked and hung up. That night, Riley's crew held the Line 3, guarding Jack, 2 patrolling, their presence a quiet storm. HOA emails pinged residents' inboxes, warning of unauthorized assemblies, but the dam broke. Stories spilled out. Fines for a kid's lemonade stand, a widow's birdhouse, a car parked an inch off center. At 2 a.m., Riley's cousin Jake caught a guy in a van printing fake violation slips Victor's lackey, sweating as Jake's phone recorded his confession. It's all Kane's orders, he stammered. Riley pocketed the footage, her ace in the hole. By morning, Willow Bend simmered. Residents defaced HOA signs with spray paint freedom. No more fines and tore rulebooks for mailboxes. Riley hadn't planned a revolt, but flared anyway. At noon, Victor Kane rolled up in a silver BMW, flanked by 2 hired muscle and a lawyer in tow. He marched to the clubhouse, posting a notice. HOA authority reasserted. Cease protests or face legal action. Riley ripped it down, dropping it at his polished shoes. Your thugs broke my granddad's arm, she said, voice cold. We've got Video Miles and Greg, your enforcers, on tape. Plus your printer guy, singing like a bird. Victor smirked. You've got nothing. Riley held up a USB. This hits every doorstep, the news, and the Attorney General unless you dissolve the HOA today. You're bluffing, Victor said, but his eyes flickered as a neighbor played the clip Jack's arm snapping, the men fleeing. The crowd swelled, phones out, voices rising. Jack deserves justice, someone shouted. That night, a vigil for Jack morphed into a rally. Riley stood on a pickup bed, megaphone in hand. They ruled us with fear fines, threats, control dressed up as order. You took it back. Cheers erupted. Miles and Greg tried to slip out, only to run into sheriff's deputies Riley had tipped off with the footage and fake slips. Cuffs clicked, their reign done. The clubhouse locked up, the board resigned, fines voided. Willow Bend breathed free. Days later, Jack sat on his porch, cast heavy but spirits high, watching kids race bikes down the street. Misses. Heart waved. Riley lingered with coffee. Sticking around to fend off the mailbox police? Jack teased. Riley grinned. Someone's gotta. Victor vanished, lawsuits piling up, but Riley didn't chase revenge, just peace. A block party sealed it. Burgers, laughter, no rules. Jack took the mic, voice steady. I held my ground. You all stormed it. That's freedom. As dusk settled, Willow Bend stood reborn, leather and grit burying the HOA's shadow for good. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.